Every few years, we think it's really important to make a concerted effort to do some kind of survey or focus groups to collect people's stories and practices from around the world, and then reflect that back to the movement so you can hear from each other, learn from each other's stories and practices, and hopefully use that information in ways that's useful to you as well. And then it also helps us learn what's happening with the movement and offer better support as part of the international support team. So, this work, we're calling it Collecting Stories of Community-Led Change Towards Resilience and Regeneration, because we know that community-led activities are making really important and positive changes in people's local areas around the world. We know that from what we hear from you, we know that from transition research that's being done, and we really want to support the work and the ongoing development of the transition movement by helping it and you gain more attention and more funding and more credibility and visibility. And the starting point for this is to share a short story about a community-led activity which made a positive contribution in your area. Amplifying and sharing these stories of community-led change is an absolutely core part of what Transition Network and the international support system do. It's really one of our core purposes. We're particularly interested in understanding the approaches or these practices that transitioners are actually using, which lead to positive change. So we've done lots of collecting and sharing stories in the past, and now we're trying to go a bit deeper and figure out what other approaches that people use that actually made it impactful. Is all part of our endeavour to help people learn from each other and make visible what they're doing, and to kind of interrogate at a bit of a deeper level, why did it work or why did it not work, and what could we do next time? The aim of that is that we all become more effective and impactful at creating resilience and regeneration in our projects and in our regions. We're using a specialised tool called Sensemaker, which is a story-led survey tool. It's very much about collecting narratives. It's very much about helping us see patterns in complexity. And it's very much about the participants, the respondents, having more of a sense of ownership over the data. So there were lots of things about this particular tool that made it something lots of people recommended to us and that we wanted to try. Even a fun, interesting collector tool like that, it's a lot to ask you to do this, to take the time to do it. And so one of the things we really care about is that we give you access to all of the stories and practices and data that's been shared. And that's one of the other reasons we chose Sensemaker, because it allows us to provide a login to the dashboard to anyone that takes the survey. So you can also log into the dashboard and see what other people are sharing from all over the world. So it's your research as well that you can use for funding applications, communications campaigns, things like that. So that's the aim, it's a community research project. Have a little think about, is there something that's happened in my local area led by a community group? Could be transition, could be something else that you've been part of or seen or attended that you think that made quite a difference, actually, a positive difference in some way. So an example for me in my local town is we have a community shed, which is a wonderful workshop where you can go and do crafting and woodwork and learn different skills, and it's all run by volunteers, and you can go and borrow tools, and it's just this fantastic community resource that helps people's mental health, because lots of people go down there that are retired or have a bit of isolation in their lives, and they have ways to interact with each other while also making and mending and sharing and reducing waste. And I think that's made a big difference, both in the kind of social and environmental realms in our town. And that's just one example, but that's an example I could share. Now, because it is a community project and it's going to be open to everyone, please don't share anything that feels sensitive or personal to you, that might reveal the identity of someone else in a way that they wouldn't want. So try and keep it just like, here's 4 or 5 sentences about a story in the sort of a similar way that I did. I didn't mention any of the names of people involved in that project. So yes, be aware that it's an open research project. Any sensitive data we collect, like email addresses or demographic information, which is very much optional. If you want to put it in, you can. That will not be shared publicly, and that will be held in a safe place and deleted after 12 months. Right, so there's the introduction, and then there's the part about data collection and how we'll use it, which we invite you to read if you do decide to fill this out. And then a bit about how it works. We found it quite hard to decide how long to make this survey. We know they're supposed to be short, and everyone was very excited about having different questions in it and finding out different things. So what we did in the end, we made the first half kind of required, because that's about the stories, the practices, and the support needs in the movement, which we really care about finding out. And the second half is about how do you think the state of the transition movement is right now? And also, what are your visions or expectations of the future? And then some demographics. And those three parts are optional. If you think those questions are quite interesting and you've got some opinions about the state of the transition movement, and you want to be part of a conversation that helps us stay engaged in positive change, then we really invite you to take part in the second part of the survey as well. But that's up to you. So one of the interesting things about Sensemaker is these triangles. And this is a way to collect information that's a bit more complex. So instead of like a yes, no, or a sliding scale question, you get these kind of three aspects of something. And this example is, how did I spend my time yesterday? Did I spend it mostly resting, sleeping, or eating, or working, or playing? And you have a marker that you click on and you can move it round. So it's not a yes, no, it's a bit more these two, or a combination of all three. So it allows us to collect slightly more complex things. The first question is this story question, and you can either type your 4 or 5 sentences here, or you can press the green button here and you can audio record something and just speak for, I would say, no more than a minute probably, because it will make a lot of transcript otherwise. You know, when we say a story, it can just be 4, 5, or 6 sentences. It doesn't need to be a whole long complex story. It's just, you know, we did this project, we saw it had these impacts, and I was excited about that because, you know, something like that. And then you say, you just go through this. This is just multiple choice. Which outcomes do you believe your project contributed to? And this is all about the characteristics and practices of transition that have been identified already. So you can just click any of these that you think were relevant to your story. There's another open question there that you can audio record. This is just to say what part of the transition movement you feel you're part of, or is it just a general community-led change group, not transition? Which country are you in? Why did you engage? And then here are these triangle ones. So you click on the cursor and then you can move it around. So that's quite fun. There's a few of those. Don't think too hard about it. It's completely gut instinct. Read it, pick up the cursor, move it, drop it, next one. So it's supposed to just be your initial reaction. So, and then this is all about support needs, and it's mostly multiple choice, and then the option to say a bit more. And then these are the optional parts. So what do you think is going well or badly in transition? Again, you can record an answer. And then there's a kind of finish the sentence question. A couple more of these triangle questions. You can, if you choose to, give advice to other people doing this kind of work. Again, that's completely optional question. And then we get on to the last part. These pictures look a bit blurry until you click on them, and then they become much brighter. So you can, if you want to get a better look at the pictures, you can click on them. And this is about your expectations of the future. So we just tried to pick a selection of futures that people talk about in the movement that they expect, both positive and negative, or more neutral. You can upload your own image if you want. Like this is an image that more represents the future I'm expecting. And then there's some feelings. How do you feel about that future? And then there's, do any of these images feel a bit more motivating? Like what would your preferred future be that you'd like to work towards? And again, you can click the same or a different picture. And you can, again, put your feelings about that. And you can, I think, upload your own as well. And then this is the optional demographic information, pretty standard. And then you can leave your email address at the bottom if you like, particularly if you shared a story that you'd like us to feature in some way, and you'd like us to get back to you and maybe interview you about that, or feature you in the Practicing Transition campaign. So that's optional as well. And then just hit submit, and that's the end.